Good morning, everybody. Because it's a new year, the first meeting of 2025, we will be holding the election for chair and vice chair. So I will be opening the meeting and holding that election. Firstly, I would like to recognize that this meeting is being held on the unceded traditional territories of the Tishat and the Hupuchesit. We are recording and live streaming this on the regional district website. And now we can go around the room and do some introductions. And then we will get on to the election. So we'll start with Mike here.
Good morning, everybody. Mike Fox, CAO at the City of Port Alberni.
Good morning, Daniel Saya, the CAO for the ACRD.
Good morning, Charlie Stewart, Regional Fire Services Manager.
Good morning, Karen Freely, Protective Services Manager with the ACRD.
Good morning, Charles Mealy, Councillor, City of Port Alberni.
Good morning, I'm Mike Burrow, Regional Director of Terry Creek.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Aklama Penikote, I'm the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake.
And I'm Kristen Cardonahue, Administrative Assistant with the ACRD. And then we'll go to our Zoom, starting with Director Sega, please.
Veda Sega, Director for Area C Long Beach.
Okay, and Director Beckett.
Good morning, everyone. Bob Beckett, representing Bamfield Area A.
Okay, Director Boyko. You're on mute.
How about now?
Yep.
Good afternoon. I'm in a different time zone, and Director Boyko from Beaufort. I got an echo here. Thanks.
Okay, and Director Roth.
Good morning, Susan Roth for Beaver Creek. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Dame.
Good morning, Dustin Dame from City of Port Alberni.
Thank you. And then John Reynolds.
John Reynolds with Adrian Brown Group.
Great. And Winna Brown.
Hi, good morning. I'm Winna Brown, Adrian Brown Group.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So as I mentioned, we will be holding the election. We'll start with the election for chairperson. So I'd like to call for nominations a first-time chairperson for this committee. Director Cote.
I'd like to nominate Mike Sparrow.
Director Sparrow, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Great. I'll call a second time for nominations. Any others? And a third? Excellent. And then we vote to see if everyone agrees Director Sparrow should be the chairperson. All in favor? Okay. Anyone? Any opposed? Excellent. And now for the vice chairperson, I'll call for nominations for vice chair for the committee. Cote.
I'd like to nominate Bob Beckett.
Director Beckett, do you accept that nomination?
I do, thank you.
Excellent. Call for second nominations. And third nominations. Excellent. All in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. So we have Mike Sparrow as the chairperson and Bob Beckett is the vice chairperson. I will pass this meeting over to Mike.
Thank you. I think I'll stay here because last time I moved, my computer died. That my computer died. Yeah, so if I do that, I can't see the red dots. That's why I'm at an angle. If I can hear me now, I hope. Is that good? Okay, good. So seeing that, we're thumbs up, great. So we're onto the approval agenda. Is there any from staff want to add the agenda? Anything corrected? So we get approval agenda? So moved. And seconded? What day? All those in favor? That's passed. Any declarations, any conflict of interest? Gifts of $250. Seeing none, we'll move on. And 5A, minutes, emergency program executive committee meeting held November 6, 2024. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none. Get up to the minutes. Vote and. Mealy, sure, Director Mealy. All those in favor? Jerry, thank you. Presentations, 6 already. Emergency communication and public notification plan update, Adrian Brown Group. Right. I think you're on mute.
Yes, I am. If it's okay, I will share my screen. I have a little deck I'd like to take you through. So, and like you, I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are that this work and this project takes place on the traditional and unceded territories of the Tishat First Nation and the Huipichet First Nation. As you know, these nations have stewarded the waters and lands of the Alberni Valley since time immemorial, and we're very grateful for their collaboration and their leadership and partnership on this project. And we're committed to ongoing collaboration that respects sovereignty and supports culturally grounded emergency communications. And this guidance really has already helped us shape this project in many meaningful ways, and will continue to do so as the final plans we're developing proceed together. As you all know, I think by now, my name is Winna Brown. I'm the founder and principal of Adrian Brown Group, and we're a communications consultancy that specializes in emergency communications and planning. And I'd like to introduce John Reynolds, who's the principal and COO of ABG, as we call it, Adrian Brown Group, and John is here with me today. To provide some context, this project was initiated as a collaborative effort aimed at strengthening regional emergency communications. And our team has now completed phase 2 of that work. And that phase was very comprehensive. It included over 50 interviews across the region with elected officials, First Nations, municipal staff, first responders, and provincial agencies. We also reviewed existing tools, conducted a communications audit, and compared practices in peer regions like Cowichan Valley and the regional district of Nanaimo and Squamish. And I think a point I would like to make is we're not just building a plan, it's a practical system that is designed to work under pressure. And it includes an emergency communications plan for the region, standalone but integrated plans for Tishat First Nation and Huipichet First Nation, and resource guides. So those are the practical tools, templates, and guidance for the information officer function, the emergency support services function, media relations, and spokespeople. There are 3 goals really that lie at the heart of this work. First, internal clarity, so that staff and responders all know exactly how the information function operates during an emergency. Second, regional coordination. We want to make sure that we're all working together across jurisdictions. And third is public trust, ensuring that the public receives timely, credible, and unified emergency messaging. I think it's really important to remember the context that we're working in when we're talking about emergency communications. These are high stakes events. There are high expectations that go along with that. They're fast moving. We have limited resources, and sometimes we're dealing with widespread misinformation misinformation, or even disinformation. I think it's really interesting that during a crisis, research shows that people form judgments about the credibility of an organization within the first 6 to 8 minutes. And so for us, that is our window to lead. And that's why this work, planning ahead, setting expectations, providing the tools and resources, defining roles, is so essential. So through our phase 2 key findings, we heard very strong support for the emergency program across all sectors. So you should all give yourself a big pat on the back for that. People really want to see this program succeed, and they're ready to support it. We also heard some consistent themes: the need to strengthen program identity, to improve program visibility and awareness, to clarify roles during EOC activations, and to expand communication tools beyond the current communications toolkit. In response to what we heard, we're focusing on several key improvements. First, as said, many people that we interviewed, they told us they weren't always sure what the emergency program's called, who it represents, who the partners are, what its mandate is. And that tells us clearly that the program needs a stronger identity. One idea that's come up is using a more inclusive and recognizable program name, something like, for example, Emergency Management Alberni Clayoquot, or EMAC. And while that may be something that you decide is best addressed at a later stage, it is something we would like you to start thinking about and to get your feedback on. We would really appreciate that. Second, we're hearing the need for a dedicated emergency program website and owned content strategy, so that during an emergency, it's very clear residents know where to go, where to get credible, consistent updates directly from the emergency program. And that is an approach that is considered best practice in emergency communications. It's widely used in other jurisdictions like CORD, for example, in the Okanagan Valley, and Cowichan Valley is another very good example. And it's something we would really like to see your emergency program move toward in future. Third, we're finalizing clear EOC activation levels. So those are monitoring mode. We're keeping an eye out. We're watching what's unfolding. We're being prepared for escalation. Partial activation and full activation according to incident complexity, and with corresponding communication roles and, importantly, notification processes. So this will help the notification to ensure that everyone knows when the EOC is activated and what level of coordination is underway and who is leading messaging across the region. And finally, in response to direct feedback, we're developing First Nations specific emergency communications plans for Tashot First Nation and Hupacheset First Nation that are tailored to each nation's governance, structure, and needs, but designed to align with and contribute to coordinated regional response. Looking ahead, the ACRD's Regional Emergency Communications Plan is on track for delivery in June with full training and orientation session. It's already scheduled for June 17th. Work is also now underway with the nation-specific plans with targeted completion in September, followed by training and orientation for their EOC teams. John and I will wrap the project with a full report and recommendations this fall. And again, just to reiterate, we're not just building a plan. We're really focused on building confidence, trust, and collaboration in the system, in the team, and in the information that people rely on when it matters most. And with that, I'll leave it there, and John and I are happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation.
My pleasure.
No problem.
Thank you. And I want to extend thanks to our steering committee.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Well, there's a few. So when you say do a communications plan to get up to the public, do you have any idea how to do effective communications? Because everything that I've tried to get up to the public in any sort of way has fallen flat. Other groups have asked, do not have an effective way to communicate to the public broadly. So do you have any way we could do this besides the Facebook page, a letter or something?
Well, really, in my experience, and I'll ask Karen and John to contribute to this too, as they wish. There are a few things to keep in mind with emergency communications. First, you have to do all that preparatory work to make sure people know in advance who is the credible source of information. And that's one of the reasons why we're very supportive of strengthening the identity and public awareness of the emergency program. Second is developing what I call and what is common in emergency communications as the single source of truth. You have to have a credible place to send people to go to get emergency information. And in most cases, that is the dedicated emergency program website. And then the third thing I would say is all your channels. So whether you're using Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, media relations, you're doing this through a spokesperson, you are always wanting to use a multi-channel approach to push people back to that single source of credible and fulsome emergency information on your website. Get them to follow your channels.
Thank you. So thinking about this, we have an EOC room and we'll do the EOC stuff maybe through the Facebook. But right now, like the city of Port Alberni, when they're on scene for a fire scene, they'll put out a quick blurb. Are you saying to incorporate that into this emergency? Or are you just using what would be a bigger emergency? Because I'm trying to get people to use and be reactive to it. So when we have to get the city and the ACRD together on this, so would it be usable to use like what do with the fire stuff there would say we're on active scene? Would that be part of it? Or do you would think a higher level just for bigger emergencies?
So thank you for that question. That is an excellent question. What I would say is that when the EOC, so Karen's team, is in what I call monitoring mode, that's where, like I understand yesterday, for example, you had a house fire in Tashot territory that crews were responding to. In that case, that is handled on using your day-to-day channels and procedures. That doesn't change. What might change is that you give Karen's team, for example, a heads up to say, hey, we're responding to this event. It looks like it is routine at this point. Just want you to be aware. Or if there's a chance of escalation, they would let Karen know that so she can start preparing. And then if it escalates to a partial activation, at that point, that is when communications channels would move to the EOC proper. So that's when the information officer function would be activated. You would then be operating under ICS, the Incident Command System, and responding through the EOC's communication channels. The city and the ACRD's channels would amplify that information, and the other partners across the region and the organization. That could include provincial agencies, for example, or other communities like Ucluelet or Tofino.
Thank you. I have one more question and then Greg will really answer the question. So yesterday we had a 3-hour road blockage.
Yeah.
Road out. So I'm trying to figure out when would the communication activation start? Would it start for that incident? Because EOC was not activated, but it was a stoppage in traffic.
So in that case, in my view, and Karen, you feel free to jump in here. But in my view, that is at that stage, it is still a day-to-day routine operation. Likely in that situation, I'm assuming someone gave Karen a heads up. So she was aware of the incident, and in the event that the closure was long-term, she could be prepared to activate either on a partial or a full activation scale. But also Karen's team might be serving a purpose to amplify information. So if the City of Port Alberni Fire Department is responding, or even RCMP, Karen can also be sharing or amplifying their information across her dedicated channels. But until the EOC activates, the emergency program is not the lead. It is still being managed at the local level.
Yeah, I have Director Mealy and then Boyko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time. So just maybe, I'm just trying to listen about the partial, full activation and
Yeah.
monitoring. So, and I guess where does our radio station play into this, and how, like, obviously we can't dictate to a private company, what to do, but and I just use like maybe an example of the fires. There's a fire at the Cameron Bluffs. We are monitoring it, and just to have the peak, let's say, put out a message that is very, like, even a template at this point. And I'm not sure if that's what's happening. I don't know. I'm a little, but just to say, here's a template, send it to the peak. And I'm just thinking about the people that aren't like my parents that don't have cell phones and that, and they're just as
Right.
important to get out. So would that be something that we could do, is have a template that just says the emergency program knows that this issue is happening. We are monitoring semi or partial or full activation. For more information, contact, and then send it to the peak and say, please read this exactly. Is that something we can do? Is that something we can dictate?
Absolutely. The other thing I would just add there, and I know you know this, but public radio, public-private, is still an incredibly important source of information for communities across this country. So yes, it's definitely important. And that's part of the reason why we want to see those three levels clearly defined: monitoring, partial activation, and full activation, because our recommendation is at the emergency program coordinator's discretion. So that is Karen. She could say, okay, we need to issue a statement or a tweet or a post across our channels that says, we are aware of the situation, we are monitoring, we are sharing information across our channels. For immediate updates, follow City of Port Alberni Fire or whoever the local lead is, until such time as the EOC is formally activated in either a partial or full mode. And then at that point, the information function, this has to be managed in a streamlined and strategic way so that it's seamless, but there is a transition from a local response to an emergency program EOC level response at that point.
Thank you for that. I have Director Boyko, then Director Siga, and then Director Booth.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Perfect. So we're talking about trusted sources and notification, and it's a very confusing topic for me. And one main reason is over the fires over the past week, there's been two closures. I actually drove right by one of them where the highway was closed. The most up-to-date information is from a Facebook group rather than the public government facility. Until we can get it more timely, as in get an answer that's more accurate, more within 10 minutes, then your decision to leave town when you're 15 minutes away from hitting any potential blockage, if you can't make it within 15 minutes, no one's going to use it. And I know some people use radio, but I personally know there's some people who use radio, but there's got to be a better method. And until we're faster than the Facebook group that's out there with a trusted source, I think we're going to be very challenged in people actually using it. So we need to find a way to do that, whether it's making sure Drive BC is updated better, or if that's the best place to get road blockages. But we need to come to some kind of consensus. But until the people trust it, we're just going in circles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Director Siga.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to just echo Fred's comments. Currently, we're all over the map for getting information, even for minor incidents, like perhaps if the fire is in your neighborhood, you still need to access information on how to safely get a route around that if you're in that area. So I think that starting with providing current information on any incidents that affect ACR residents, it needs, like, what happens is I will get the posts from ACRD, who gets the posts from highways, then I will post it on Facebook, and people haven't learned the information. So they're saying thank you on Facebook. Well, that's kind of a convoluted way to communicate with our people. And so I don't think it should just be activated during large emergency deployment situations. I think any incidents that are happening that are impacting traffic or people in our communities, if the source is the ACRD, then let's make that. I appreciate your point about having one source. And working at the hospital, back then it was all CB radios, and there was one source of CB radio information that everybody paid attention to because it was always right. And so everybody was tuned to that channel. And I don't know if it's through radio or to have, I don't know how it would be sorted out. Do you have ideas of the most effective means of communicating with people in remote areas?
Well, I think having robust blackout procedures is really important, particularly for a community like yours, where you already know you have areas across ACRD in the electoral areas specifically where there's poor connectivity, or in some cases no connectivity. So you have to plan for that. And that's why having a multi-channel approach is really important. And that's another reason why there is opportunity to, not for every event, but there are multiple channels, like the Voyant Alert can do, which is, as I'm sure you're already aware, is this subscription-based alerting tool for emergencies. But it can do landlines. So you can get email, you can get landline messages. So really, an emergency communications, it's about communicating on as many channels as possible to reach people. But the key thing is you always want to funnel them back to whoever is the lead. So for example, if it's something that Modi is responding to, the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, for example, then Karen may not be the source of instant information for people. She can serve a purpose to help amplify what ACRD's role I believe, in a Highway 4 closure, significant closure, is to make sure people know where to go to get current information on road conditions, which is MOTI's responsibility, but can also can be the authoritative source on local impacts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd just like to ask what your recommended timeline would be. I know that messages get out there and then they remain posted. So what is that timeline for posting something and then making sure that it's brought down? Because people will think that there's still an emergency happening when it's already over. And I've seen that myself. With the Dog Mountain fire, I learned a lot about communication. People reach out to wherever they think that they're going to be able to get the right information.
Mhm.
Local government, I don't know that there's really a connection to the directors because a lot of communities look to their director or someone local. They like to talk to a person rather than read something. So do you have any recommendations on how to incorporate some kind of a community connection and some timelines? Thanks.
So timelines, yes, it's extremely important to respond quickly, even just to say, this is what we know. We're waiting on this information, but this is what we know right now. We're committed to keeping you up to date. What's the worst thing is radio silence, because when you are silent, you create a communications vacuum that others, to your point, are more than happy to fill. And that's where you run into problems with misinformation and disinformation filling that void. So you need to be part of the conversation and you need to demonstrate the action and your awareness in response. That builds your credibility as an organization as well. So that's how I would answer the timeliness question. I think the other thing you can't lose sight of is that you need to make sure the information that is out there is accurate. You obviously don't want incorrect information circulating, and when it does, your IO, information officer, needs to be monitoring those channels very closely and responding to those questions. So that answers the timeliness. In terms of people wanting the human connection, yes, we absolutely know, especially in smaller communities, that is critical. And that's one of the reasons why we're proponents of having a notification system for elected officials like yourselves, that when the EOC activates into a partial mode, or at Karen's discretion, if it is a serious incident that she is monitoring with the potential to escalate to an activation, you would receive a notification of that. And then you would be, at that point onwards, receiving regular updates, likely through the EOC director, who that would probably be Daniel or Mike, for example, from the city, who might be acting in that role. So that's how that would work.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I think that knowing that we need to have a spokesperson from the emergency, a message that's pre-done up to the directors would be really good. Then we're all saying the same message. I think that would help. Also, because we're in a recreational area, we have a lot of transient people. So how do we get the message to those people driving down the highway and all of a sudden they don't have any information?
Yeah, and I think that is complicated as well by the issue that Director Boyko mentioned, which is around the outages and the connectivity problems in the area. So there are no easy answers to that, but there are things like mobile road signs that Modi has in operation, for example. There is Voint Alert. It does have capacity to include a visitor mode. We know that. People do have to register. They are not necessarily following your channels, but that's another reason why it's so important to go out in a multi-channel approach. You cannot just rely on one channel. We know for you, for example, Facebook is very well used. You almost across the board, all your major partners in your emergency program have very robust and viable Facebook followings, but you cannot rely on that alone. You have to go out multi-channel for that very reason. So you want to hit as many opportunities to reach people as possible. And some of those methods are old school. They are things like mobile road signs.
just to say that the reader board that's out at Sprout Lake has to be manually, the message has to be manually put in. So it's not as easy as what you think. Thanks.
Yeah, agreed. It's never easy. And it's knowing in advance that type of information, putting mechanisms in place to deal with it. And again, going out multi-channel, but it's also building awareness too for this doesn't necessarily help with visitors to your community, but it does help with residents about the emergency program, what it does, who it is, who the partners are, and where to go to get information, both in preparation in emergency preparedness efforts, but through all stages of an emergency.
Thank you. I have Director Roth, I have Daniel, and I have Councilor Moon.
Thank you. I just looked on AV Chatterbox and there's a message right there. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, and it says, is Highway 4 closing today? And then you look at the comments and it's people that just drove through, but it's also someone, Brent Blake, that commented about, put up a copy of Drive BC. So there isn't anything from the regional district or any other local government, but I just wanted to point out that's how we
Yeah.
deal with it.
Well, AV Chatterbox, I would say.
This part is, it's
Right,
Drive BC.
like-
It's the screenshot of Drive BC.
Yeah, exactly. So it's being aware of those conversations and what's happening and what's being communicated and being positioned to be able to counter misinformation or respond to disinformation and to circulate credible information on behalf of whoever the authoritative voice is on a particular incident.
So should the ACRD be monitoring and
Yes,
correct
I-
information and, you know, like there isn't comments from local government here. This was only made 4 hours ago, but yeah.
Well, what I would say is in that case, the EOC, if I understand correctly, was not activated. It was likely monitored. I don't want to speak for Karen, but I'm sure she was monitoring the situation closely. And where appropriate, would make a decision to amplify information from credible sources. That does not necessarily mean you want to start posting on unofficial channels, being aware and being able to direct people to where they can go to get credible, timely information, timely being key.
Thank you. One other small comment is I quite like road signs myself. You know, it's especially if they're digital and something that can be updated really quickly. The Forest Service puts out some good ones and they can even, you know, move things around on you pretty quick. Just a comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Now I have Daniel.
When along the lines of timely and accurate information, I was just wondering if you could provide some commentary around if we had an EMAC website, would it be useful on that website to just have regular updates that say, you know, this is what we've heard and are investigating, and this is what we know, so that I know not everyone will read it the same way, so it'd have to be very carefully done. But I guess my question here is, in your view, should we be looking at least acknowledging what we've heard so that the unverified is at least there and people know that we're not stonewalling information, and then being able to promote and elevate the information that we can confirm as being accurate? Is there value to doing that, or is that something that we should be cautioned against?
No, I would say there's absolutely value in doing that. And if you look at, for example, the CORD website in the Kelowna, Okanagan area, you'll see that their website is very activation focused. And that is their primary focus, is so that you can respond very quickly to exactly that type of situation, Daniel. You can say, we're monitoring, we're aware, Here's what we know. Here's where you can go for credible information. And always the best practice, I believe, in emergency communications is to amplify the responding authorities' content rather than trying to recreate it yourself, or B, fill a void. But you can definitely acknowledge and should acknowledge a situation. So yes, if you had a dedicated website, it would be, and people are conditioned to go there, aware of the program. Yes, that would be a very effective approach.
Yeah, I have Councillor Muley and then I have Director Beckett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just listening to the conversations here and just wanted to make a couple of notes and just thoughts here. So I'm a big fan of the Port Alberni Fire Department's Facebook page. They seem to have very timely information, and sometimes they'll include a video as well. And in fact, and before this meeting, I didn't think they could get any better, to be perfectly honest with you. But just in listening to Director Cote talking about posts that go online and people share them a day later and there might be some confusion. Maybe my suggestion would be to the emergency program in the fire department for us is to put timestamps. Just the first thing they say is on May 15th at 10:41, this is when we're posting. So if it is shared 3 days from now, people understand that the very first line says that this was May 15th, there's a fire in this area and that. So, but again, I'm a big fan of the fire department and the emergency program posts, and I share them all the time, which is something else I'll get to. And just talking about our own fire department as well but also could be for the emergency program is include a Google map screenshot of the area and just show the map instead. So people have that post and they go, oh, well, there's a fire on 14th Avenue. And okay, how do I get around it? And then people will go back to that post because it's very easy access, very easy information. And again, it's tough because I don't want to tell, especially the fire department, they're very busy. There's 4 of them on the job and someone's making the post. So obviously they have a job to do, but they're making a post. So it may take a couple more seconds to take a screenshot of the area and throw that up there. But I think that would be valuable for the residents, at least, especially in the area, or how to avoid an accident at 10th and Roger or however. What else did I have here? Yeah, the Drive BC as well. The links are always up there. I put down screenshot as well, but those change all the time. So it could be information. But again, if you're putting out a post with a date and a time, then at least you can say, here's Drive BC. And I know we do link to Drive BC as well, so that's okay. And then I guess the last one is that everyone who does have a Facebook page and as a counselor or a director, the people are trusting you to have the information. They trust you as a trusted source. So that's why I try my best to provide, especially the emergency program or the fire department, something's going on, because people look at myself as a trusted source. And then I am saying the fire department and the emergency program is a trusted source as well. So we can get into posting those on AV Chatterbox. In my case, I would just turn off comments at that point because there's no way I can monitor those comments. But at least getting it out there and people go, oh, I trust Councillor Dane. And so he's going to put it up. Sorry, Councillor Dane. He's going to put it out there and I'm going to trust him because, and this information is also coming from a very trusted source in the Port Alberni Fire Department or the emergency program. So just some thoughts coming through when sitting in this meeting.
Thank you. Excellent.
Okay, thank you. And also to expand on that, you do that for your city workshop. We're working in this area.
Yes.
We'll post up pretty quick and they'll avoid it. I have Director Beckett, then Director Cote.
Thank you. Just a couple comments. Great discussion this morning. We're focusing a lot on trusted source and credible communication. And I think unless we commit and establish a joint ACRD City of Port Alberni communication site that people can depend on and rely on, not just for EOC activated communications, but using the Highway 4 incident yesterday as an example. We should be focusing on customer service for our community, for our visitors and our tourists. And I think that if and again, using that accident as an example yesterday, I got a notice that there was an accident, but I knew nothing. I had no idea how long the closure would be. And I think that's the kind of communication. I know it would be more work for our staff, but I really do believe that unless we have something up and running that's reliable and timely, as other individuals have come up with, we're never going to get people to switch from going to all sorts of different sources that I'm sorry, I am concerned about the reliability, even though and Director Roth just used the recent Facebook posting, which was fortunately accurate because it had Drive BC and that's great. But if you have someone out there who posts something that is not accurate, the potential damage, I'm really concerned about that. So anyway, again, getting off my soapbox, all of the conversation today leads me that we need to at least establish a source that represents the ACRD in Port Alberni, that includes the partners in partnership with RCMP, BC Ambulance Service, Ministry of Forests, MODI, etc. And that's what we're expecting those partners to utilize and share those updates via our platform. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are you making that a motion or just a suggestion at this point?
Well, I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that we get a few more comments back on something like that, and I recognize that one source may not be the answer, and I'm good with that, but we got to start somewhere. And I really do believe that governance starts with the elected bodies, and that includes the regional government and municipality of Port Alberni.
Thank you for that. So I now have Director Cote. Director City.
Thank you. I sit as a director on the Municipal Insurance Association. We have a toolkit that our members are, of which we are the ACRD members of MIA. There is a crisis communication playbook toolkit in the toolkit. So looking through it, it's talking about everything that we're talking about here today. Confirm key person, making sure that stories are credible, making sure that we focus if something we see anything is personal opinion, that it needs to be referred back to the credible source and really drive people to looking at that credible source. So I'd recommend that we share this. There's a few toolkit articles here that would give us some great information on how to deal with this. So thanks.
Thank you for that. I have Director Watt.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple points. Port Alberni Fire Department turns off comments, so I often won't go there. Mostly because if there's an inability to request more information. And secondly, I get alerts from the American government within a minute for an earthquake. So that's something that I rely on heavily for, especially earthquakes that occur in Alaska. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Director Seagull.
Thank you. Yeah, just going back to Director Beckett's comments. I think another big piece that we're missing is marine incidents. And I learn about incidents by the public telling me, and then I have to investigate and find out like what's really going on, and I don't have a good source. So if somehow the emergency program could access marine incident information, that would be helpful as well.
Thank you for that. Director Boyd.
Thank you. I know we're just talking about motions and things like that, but I know the ACRD staff is going to talk to us in the next agenda item, and we'll listen to what they say before I think we should make any motions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know I have Councillor Dane.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, taking Director Voico's comment into account, I just wanted to put my support behind Director Beckett's comments that it's really important that we figure out some sort of central location for information to come from. Many of you probably know I spend a fair amount of time on Facebook, and I can tell you that AV Chatterbox is not a consistently reliable source of information, but people use it because they, besides wanting to be there for all the gossip and everything, you just have a lot of different people who are willing to step up and provide, whether it's what they feel is accurate information or whether they just have their own sort of ideas that they want to put forward. But people view it as the go-to place because there is everything's there. There's 20,000 some odd members or around there. And I think that if we want to make sure that good, accurate information gets out there, we need to provide a better option. And so far, we have not done a great job of having a cohesive sort of answer. So I think as local governments, if we don't want people sort of using this kind of Wild West style of information sharing, then it's up to us to provide a really good, convenient, consistent source of information. So I would definitely be in support of that if such a motion were made. Thanks.
Thank you for that. We were mentioning the peak, and lo and behold, somehow he magically appeared in the room. Do we have to, I'm gonna have to vote first, I think, to let you speak, first of all, so we have to vote, allow you to speak if we can, yes? Oh. Do we not? He's from the audience, or can we let him speak?
We're a committee, so I think yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. It's like Beetlejuice. You say my name 3 times and I show up. Very interesting discussion, and I wanted to come down here as the operations manager, sales manager, and news director at the Peak to talk about consistent, reliable, trusted information. CJAV's been here for almost 80 years. When it was an AM station, it was called The Source. 15 years later, we're the Peak on FM, but people still know us as The Source. If there's snow on the ground, people are listening to us. Anything happens, people are listening to us. Trusted information. I think you hopefully have seen the reports that came out of the tsunami event a few years ago. What happened in that case was we had a firefighter stationed at our radio station in communication with all of the different crews throughout the valley, relaying information to us starting at 2 in the morning. We were on the air at 2 in the morning as soon as the alert came in, and making sure that everyone had the best, reliable, up-to-date information. And we saw it again in a smaller scale yesterday with the highway closure. As you were mentioning, you couldn't get information from Drive BC or any of the other online things that was reliable. You could get that information from the Peak because people know to call our studio line, tell us what they're seeing, tell us what they're hearing, tell us that they were told that it's going to be 3 hours before the highways open again. So as far as trusted information, we have the biggest megaphone in the Alberni Valley. Chatterbox and all these different Facebook pages, you can put stuff on there if you want to, but if you want something that has gone through the process of accuracy, it's us. And if you have an issue with something that's said or put out on Chatterbox, who do you talk to? If you have an issue with something that's put out or said on the Peak, say my name 3 times. So if you have any more information about the role that 93.3 The Peak plays in the Alberni Valley, especially during emergencies, I'm always happy to talk. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Did you happen to hear us this morning? Is that what you came up here? I was watching on YouTube. You're watching on YouTube. Well, thank you. We have one person. Yeah, okay, great, thank you. Is there any more questions from anybody? No, Daniel.
Perhaps just a commentary. I think as when I was saying that in June, when we get the final report, that will likely be the best opportunity to start making motions on what to action and how to action. Because obviously the report's going to give us an overview of the prioritized things that we should be looking at advancing. Then we're left with the task of advancing them. And of course, we're going to want to have some discussion around how to prioritize that within our community, within the valley. And then we get down to turning that into an operational plan. So some of the things that Bob was saying, for example, will require some coordination with the city and ourselves. And we already know that in September, the nations are going to have updated plans for themselves. So the next phase of coordination is making sure that their plans and our plan are properly linked. And that if we're talking about communication, that we have the proper permission. So we never want to be speaking on somebody else's behalf unless we've structured it so that we can accurately do that, right, and in a supportive way. So just so you're aware, like the time for resolutions, I think would be once we have the final report, and the time for feedback is definitely now. And I know that John and Linda are also taking notes as I am.
Thank you, then. So you're now forewarned. Is there any more? Right. Seeing that. Well, I thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. And thank you also again to our steering committee and Karen and Daniel for their leadership on this project.
Thank you, then.
We'll sign off. Thank you.
Have a great day. Yes.
You too.
And now we'll go to a second presentation, emergency program update. Like service manager and even back there, I'm the field officer. It's a big work.
Thank you. And thank you to Winna and John for being here today. As you can see, communication is a robust topic, and I appreciate all the comments and feedback. It's much appreciated. And I know Winna and John, like Daniel was saying, would have made lots of notes as we move along here. So I am going to do an update on emergency management and the Alberni Valley Emergency Management Program and just discuss some of the projects and grants and programs that we're working on and give you an opportunity to provide your feedback. So I'm just going to start with the Emergency Operations Center. We did apply for a grant earlier this year through UBCM. And just as a refresher, the grant partners are the City of Port Alberni, the ACRD, and the District of Tofino for this grant. This grant enables us to purchase supplies and equipment to improve disaster response efforts. And with this funding, we're able to purchase laptops. We will be looking at purchasing smart boards for the EOC so we can enhance our situational awareness and our mapping displays. We will be looking at TV for visual communication, chairs, office supplies, and storage units for the EOC, as well as response vests and section kits for roles such as risk management and individual section scribes. With this grant, we will also be focusing on training and building our capacity and readiness through training efforts. We will be facilitating an EOC section training sessions, a specific finance section training, and that will be joint training. So it'll be a number of First Nations and municipalities and regional districts in the area coming together. Developing just-in-time training materials, which essentially are you arrive at the EOC and you're here and you're ready, and what do you do next? So those materials really prompt people to know, okay, this is the next steps, so that they're able to take action quickly. And facilitating a functional exercise to enhance regional readiness. So we'll be working with the ACRD, the City of Port Alberni, and Tofino to do a regional exercise because we certainly know that emergencies don't stay within jurisdictions. As part of this grant, we will also be positioned to potentially purchase satellite communication equipment. And there are a number of different providers. And I'm going to pass this on to Rich, because Rich has a lot of good information on various recommendations and options that are available to us.
Thank you very much, Karen. So as you mentioned, there are a number of different providers of satellite communications. When we look at satellite communications for this purpose, this is for first responders who are going to be out in rural locations, generally outside of any kind of cellular networks where they're essentially cut off from communicating with, whether it's a fire hall or it could be an emergency operations center. When they get way out there in the field, of course, they will have no communications with our current setup. So in looking into satellite internet providers, there are a number of different options. Most of them would not be particularly viable for this type of setup. A lot of the traditional satellite providers that have been around for a while, they don't have the fastest internet speeds, as well as they have what's called high latency, which means the amount of time for your communication to go out to the satellite dish and then come back to Earth takes a long time. So for instances where you're going to be having voice communications, if somebody wants to be able to use their cell phone over the satellite connection, or if they're going to be doing anything like Teams, relaying information, talking to people back at incident command, you don't want to have a long latency where you say something, a couple seconds later, the person hears it, they're responding to you. You're going back and forth, talking over each other. We all remember that from back in the day with slow connections, and when cellular communication wasn't particularly good, sometimes you would see that. That would be very frustrating in an emergency situation where you may be dealing under duress. It just wouldn't be a good situation. So it really narrows down the options. Telesat, Viasat, HughesNet, ExploreNet, Strigo, they're all high latency, low bandwidth communications. They certainly work, they have their purposes, but not for this situation. So it really narrows down to Galaxy Broadband and Starlink. Both of them have satellites in what's called low Earth orbit. So they're much closer to the Earth. The communications going out to the satellite and coming back is much quicker. It can facilitate voice communications without that long delay in your voice coming and going. So really, it kind of boils down to Galaxy Broadband and Starlink. And if you could please move to the next slide. We've got a little bit of detail about comparing these two together. So again, both of them are low Earth orbit satellites, so they're closer to the Earth. Galaxy Broadband, their published information is that they have about 648 satellites. Starlink has 12,000, which certainly provides significantly better coverage. If we're going to be out in rural areas, potentially with lots of trees and forests around, you're going to want ideally to have as many satellites as possible to ensure that you can actually get a communication link. Starlink is also, even though they're both considered low Earth orbit satellites, Starlink is less than half the distance out than Galaxy Broadband, which of course is going to make the latency less in that instance as well. Starlink also provides higher speeds than Galaxy Broadband. And I mean, the really big difference here, both of them would be certainly usable. You might get a little bit less connectivity with Galaxy Broadband in terms of being able to get a connection depending on where you are. But really, the price is the really big thing here. With Starlink, it's approximately a $2,500 charge per setup. So for basically for each truck that we would want to outfit, fire truck. And with Galaxy Broadband, it's actually an $11,000 monthly lease. So the cost is astronomical compared to Starlink. It's not even really comparable. The monthly service cost is very similar. Starlink comes in a hair below Galaxy Broadband, which is actually interesting because a couple months ago when we looked into this, the monthly cost of Starlink was actually significantly higher. It was over $300 per month, and now they have multiple packages. The one which matches Galaxy Broadband is slightly cheaper than what Galaxy is asking. So I just wanted to kind of show a little bit of this information coming where we're coming from and looking into the satellite options. And yeah, that's pretty much what I had to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Rich is definitely our expertise in IT, so I appreciate the input and all the homework that you've done into that. I just wanted to chat next about, we had chatted in the fall and we had a pick around Starlight Communications, if you remember. Oh, sorry,
So just a question about these different programs. Are they like a phone contract that you have to sign up for 3 years, or is it month to month, or how is that? I'm just wondering if you sign up for a year at the low price and then they jack it up. TELUS has done that quite a few times in the media and the hearings.
With the Galaxy broadband, if I remember correctly, and I would have to go back, I did actually receive a quote from them. I would have to go back and review that. I believe it was an annual contract that we would be getting into, but I can confirm that and get back to you. With Starlink, I'm actually not 100% sure. I would need to dig into that as well. It certainly wouldn't be more than a yearly term. They potentially offer longer terms, which may lock you into a price. May or may not be a good idea, seeing as how their prices are trending down. Yeah, I can definitely look into that and get back to you on that.
One more question, thank you. So the devices that go into the vehicles, would they be able to switch from Starlink to Galaxy or whatever? Or is it specific to that company?
Thank you. It is specific to the company, so you cannot switch back and forth. The hardware is tied to the vendor. Yes.
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for that. The locations we were looking at, we were discussing the potential of a satellite network was to have Starlink or a satellite unit at the EOC, so here at the ACRD. ESS, and the purpose of that was if we needed a reception center, then we might need communications at a reception center. And then we explored Sprout Lake Fire Department, Beaver Creek Fire Department, as well as 2 for the Port Alberni Fire Department. So we did put in requests for grants funding for those units up to $3,000, which would cover the cost of a Starlink unit. And so I just wanted to bring the attention what the grants will and will not do as far as funding the purchase of potentially Starlink or another form of satellite network. We do have, as I said, up to $3,000 to purchase the equipment for every of those locations that I just listed. It does include the installation costs, or we might choose, instead of installing it permanently at a location, have it in a mobile kit. So for example, the one with the ESS might be better in a mobile kit, so you can take it to a reception center, wherever that may be. But the grant does not cover operational costs and ongoing costs here on out. And as Rich has shown, that there are monthly fees as we move along here. And so I did want to make mention at this time that the city did provide a letter for discussion at this meeting to discuss the operational expenses as we move forward with the potential of the purchase of Starlink. Oh, yes, we did include Banfield. Thank you for that as well. Yes, we did include Banfield. And so as it stands right now, or as we were moving along, our thoughts would be that every department, so the EOC and the ESS, the costs would be running through the AVEP program, which is the Alberni Valley Emergency Planning Program. The costs associated with each fire department would be, operational expenses would be carried by that department as it stands right now, unless there's other decisions that are made. So this is up for discussion today.
Okay, thank you. I'll go Daniel.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. So when we were discussing the different approaches, right now, each department carries their own monthly costs. So for rough numbers, $100 a month. If it was a Starlink per system that's there, it might be higher if we choose different packages, but I'm going to use the round numbers. What's important to flag is that if we were to do this all together under the service, it would not actually save the city of Port Alberni any money, because the aggregate number of units that we're talking about across the departments is actually higher than what the city is carrying. So if the city had 2 units and you're paying for those units on a monthly basis, round numbers, $200 a month for 2 units, that amount that you're paying is actually lower than if you were paying a percentage under the service of everyone's packaged together. So what we can't do is package everything together and only pay for the city. So if we package everything together, everyone is going to be based on apportionment formula. And I know Penny right away is going to clue in on that. Is going to say like, no, I don't like this apportionment model. And so I just want to flag that, right? Because we do have an apportionment formula in place for the service. And when we do the math of that, it would cost the city more to run the units through that as opposed to keeping it in your department. Now, that said, if you still want to do it, that's great. I'm sure everyone would be happy to have you subsidize everyone else's system, but I don't think that that is what you wanted to do.
Thank you for that. I got one weird question. I know they have cell phones at fire trucks. Would this capability be able to override the cell phones? I can use it as a cell phone being satellite system?
So the way that it would work with cell phones is that you would do Wi-Fi calling. So the satellite systems would have a Wi-Fi component to it. So that would provide a Wi-Fi connection to tablets, laptops, cell phones. And if you enable Wi-Fi calling on your cell phone, you would be able to make a phone call through this internet service.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi networking is a big thing. It's not like a sat phone where you're tied to an individual device. Starlink provide broadband to a single unit, but could be spread out around multiple units in service areas. Multiple devices can be connected, which is a big advantage operationally.
It was more like the hotspot. You just use the hotspot. It's really great. Yeah. And you're going out to emergency and you have a hotspot. Any more questions?
Thank you. Sprout Lake has multiple halls and vehicles, so would we have one unit or would we be paying for multiple units?
Plan is for single unit in a single vehicle, which would be at the scene, which would allow the other units to participate. My understanding of the plan is that you pay for it as you use it, sort of. So if you don't use it, you can put it to sleep for a month. If you use it once in that month, then you pay for the month. So you can, fire departments may not use it for months, so they don't pay for those months.
So sorry, CEO Fox.
Thanks. I just also want to mention that the city continues to lobby the province for when we receive task numbers, et cetera, for all the fire departments in the region, that we can charge the province a certain amount for communications. Because a lot of the actions for road rescue or for anything else that happens for BC wildfire, et cetera, we do receive a task number, but currently we cannot put in for communications, where it is a requirement of WorkSafe BC and other provincial authorities that we keep in contact with our employees and also be able to get information out. And we continue to work with the administration, and I know our council has lobbied at UBCM the past 2 years, and we'll be talking again to the province again about when we're going to remote areas on behalf of the province, they should be upping the amount that we're receiving partial for communications or enabling some type of communications. So in those conversations, we did receive correspondence recently from Ministry of Transportation on the Banfield Road that they are going to allow us to hook into their public system on the telephone lines. It is an open system, but so we will have communications on road rescues on that road. But heading to Banfield down around Cathedral Grove too is still blank spots, and there are some others in the region too that are. So again, we continue to work with the province, but if the ACRD wanted to join us in those petitions for trying to get the province to up the amount for the calls to cover these costs for communications, I think that would be beneficial for the region.
I was gonna make one comment. Banfield's on the list. I think there, but Cherry Creek can't be on the list because they're a different government organization, so. They don't. So, but
So if Cherry Creek, could they apply for this grant? On their own, and then link in?
I can answer that. We did try, and we had Amy Mayo actually call and ask about the grant, and they said if we put Cherry Creek on, they would deny it, period.
Thank you. And I, Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. So when we started this talk about Starlink and adding more capability a year ago, we were talking about 2 units. Now we're up to, I'm counting 6, 7. Now we're talking about 1 on every fire truck. So how bad or how big is this thing ballooning? Because I don't see a total price on number of units and total cost. Just exactly what are we looking at here? And second question is, what are we going to use these things for? We already have fire trucks that have radios that work with towers and generators, and they can work without power all the time. So do we need 1 on every fire truck? And what exactly are we going to use all this equipment for that we do not have the capability for now? Thank you.
For the fire truck radios, we do have black areas or dark areas where radio communications is not possible. The Highway 4 West is one area. Banfield area has many, and Sprout Lake and Beaver Creek both have dark areas for radio coverage.
I think I'm gonna reiterate that. We have one right by the golf course in Cherry Creek is in a hole, so we had to have somebody down there and somebody on the road to relay information 100 feet. So there are weird little dark spots out there, and the shadowing of the hills also creates a lot of problems. So yes, we've lived through it is necessary. Yeah.
And just to full circle on your question, Director Boyko, the hardware cost, so that as Karen was saying, roughly 3,000 per unit was identified in the grant. That would be grant covered. The operational cost would be absorbed by the individual fire department itself. So that is the model that we're running. So the only cost that we would see on an ongoing basis is the operational cost that impacts individual fire departments. And as Charlie was saying, what we believe is that you only pay if activated in that month. And so it would really just be a backup system. We have to double check all that in any agreements, but ultimately what you're talking about is roughly $1,200 a year for each department operationally. Director Cote.
So just I have a quick follow-up if I'm allowed to. So you said $1,200 per department, but reality would be $1,200 per truck. And most departments have more than 1 truck, just to clarify that, correct?
No, we're only talking about 1 unit per department, with exception to Port Alberni, that would have 2 units. So it's not per truck. The strategy here is to put it on the truck that is always deployed, so that you have a hotspot on scene for every typical call. And so it is just 1 per department and 2 for the city.
Okay, so circle back to what Director Cote was asking, because they have 2 fire departments separate in Sprout Lake, but they would only have 1 unit, and they'd have to figure out which unit that would go to. Perfect, thank you.
Well, it's 1 department, but yes, you are correct in that it is just one unit for that department.
Director Cote.
Thank you. I sit on a number of committees all over the regional district. One of them is the SOMAS fish flow. And BC Hydro sits on that, and they operate the dam. Oh my gosh, the Lazy Lake Dam. Okay, and they are using Starlink to monitor, and if there's ever a breach of that dam, they use Starlink to get the message out, so that we're informed immediately. So then our fire department and the city fire department, anybody who's linked up with Starlink, or I think the message can go out from that, that there's been a breach. So it's important that we also have that link. was excited to hear that that's what they use and that it would be a benefit if we actually had Starlink as well. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Are there any more questions? One presentation. Is that it? There's more.
There's more, but that does conclude the satellite network conversation. So thank you so much for your feedback, and we'll investigate Starlink, and it does seem to be the best choice as it stands right now. So keeping with the communications theme, we will move on to the Aerosmith Amateur Radio Club. This club is a volunteer group dedicated to ensuring the continuity of communications during disasters when traditional communication infrastructure is damaged or inoperable. So if the radio club is in action, we have had a major disaster. They like to call them the last responders, the last resort of communication. We are in the process of renewing a license agreement with Mosaic Forest Management for the continued use of the repeater on the Mount Copley site. And I just wanted to have this conversation and tell you a little bit about the Radio Club's involvement on this site and discuss some of the changes that are being proposed through this lease. The Radio Club has been maintaining this site since 1977, so we've been on that site for quite a long time. The repeater is strategically placed at this high level, and it's instrumental for ensuring communications with the West Coast, including Bamfield, Tofino, and Ucluelet. Through upgrades over the years, they've also enabled us to speak to the north and the east parts of the island, so including Pell River, Qualicum, Parksville, Comox, Courtney, Campbell River, and Nanaimo, and even allows us to communicate with some parts of the mainland. So this is an instrumental, this site is instrumental to their operations. However, before signing the agreement, I did want to bring it to your attention that there has been a significant change in the fees over the last 2 terms, and wanted you to have an opportunity to hear the changes. So prior to 2021, the Radio Club held the license they were the licensee for Mosaic, and were able to use this repeater site for $1 for a 3-year term. And then after that term, we moved into the next term, and during this term, the ACRD assumed the role of licensee on behalf of the Radio Club. And this was also a 3-year term. And at this time, we had to have a $650 administration fee was applied to this term. So where we're at now is looking at this next bullet there, the renewal agreement. It's now a 5-year term, so it'd be 2025 to 2030. And the administration fee has increased to $725, but the main difference is the annual fees that you'll see listed below. These fees are new to this contract and totals up to $9,025 over 5 years. And so upon learning of this financial increase, we reached out to Mosaic to ask if they would reconsider reducing the rate of the repeater given the essential service to public safety. But we did receive a reply, and they mentioned that the rate was applicable to nonprofit and emergency services towers in the regional district, and it represents a significant discount from their standard rates. And then they went on to say that the administration fee covers the costs of managing the site agreements and is applied consistently with all of their users. So I just, before we signed the lease agreement, I just wanted to bring this to your attention and give you an opportunity to have a conversation, because this expense was an unanticipated expense in addition to the emergency planning budget, and will have an ongoing cost as we move over the next 5 years and beyond.
Oh, there we go. I'm gonna flush. Okay, I'll Director Beckett, then Director Seager, then Director Boyko.
Thank you for the report. I can appreciate having an administrative fee so that Mosaic staff time is covered, et cetera, et cetera. But I am disappointed in the annual fee. I won't even say increases, just the fact that they have these annual fees for the next 5 years, which are substantial. And I'm wondering, and I appreciate that you've reached out to them to see if they'd reduce it, but I don't understand the rationale for a nonprofit organization that is in place to help everyone in a significant emergency, including Mosaic and everyone else who has property and infrastructure, in our area. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm asking for, a response back to say that we're disappointed, or a request to try to understand what the fee covers, like what's the rationale for the fee. But just in this day and age when we're all struggling financially, I don't understand from a corporate PR standpoint why they would do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Director Siga?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm wondering if the tower predates Mosaic's ownership and whether that will have an impact on what they can actually do about that. And again, that goes for our public roads, which the people of BC actually paid for the logging roads. I think this is a bigger question that needs to go to the provincial government and the Ministry of Forests, because so the first question is, does the tower predate Mosaic's ownership?
You want to share?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, it does go back to 1977, which does predate Mosaic. And my understanding, it was an agreement originally held with McMillan Blodell.
Excuse me, so that would have been when it was still a forest lease, right? TFL?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I think there's actually legal precedence here that an asset was sold off, probably without the acknowledgement of the radio club. So I would be bringing this to the Minister of Forests, and yeah, I would be looking for some legal input here.
Okay, thank you for that. Daniel, do you want to respond to that?
I'll just add, it's Karen's been doing a really good job at trying to escalate to have the right conversation with the right person in Mosaic as we go through this. But the other key point to this is that I believe it's an 8 foot by 8 foot footprint for the tower itself, and then 150 foot guy wire. They had indicated that it's for maintenance fees, and the reality is that our volunteers, it's actually the radio club themselves that maintains the entirety of the site on the 8 foot by 8 foot plot. So it is mind-boggling, but we'll certainly flag it with the Ministry of Forests as well. I think that's a good comment.
Thank you for that. And then we'll go to Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. I got a bit of a unique perspective because I do have a ham radio license and I do bounce signals off this tower on a regular basis. And when I drive around, I listen to it all the time because it is the best way of getting signals around the valley. And you can get it all the way up to the summit on both sides of the valley and halfway down to Banfield. So it's a great repeater and it is very useful for everybody in the valley. I'm not a member of the club, so I don't really have anything directly with them. That being said, the $650, that's actually charged internally from the ACRD to the club. Is that correct?
That is correct. The ACRD is paid for that $650, and you are correct in what you said. Yeah. To Mosaic, sorry, $650 was paid for Mosaic, but the radio club comes out of the Alberni Valley Emergency Planning budget.
So how much is a club actually being asked to pay here? Or is it just that the ACRD is being asked to pay to Mosaic now as well?
The ACRD would be paying the Emergency Valley Emergency Planning, so AVEP. This money would be coming out of that budget.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification.
And how big is that budget? How much will you spike on that budget?
Typically, the radio club works off an $8,000 annual budget. And so this would be something that would beyond what they could pay for because they pay for the trailer insurance and a number of other fees that already uses the $8,000. So this would have to come more out of the AVEP budget than what was allocated for Radio Club, or we'd have to make a bigger allocation next year and the years to come for their Radio Club.
Thanks. Are there any more? Oh, Director Wood.
Thank you, Chair. So could we reduce our internal charges to ourselves and just keep the amount paid exactly the same or within $100? Is it that simple or not that simple?
Sorry, that we don't pay ourselves anything, Fred. This is all an external cost, right? So the money that is relayed over for the radio club, that all covers their operational costs like insurance and whatnot. The money identified here, like the 650 is money that we now pay directly to Mosaic. And so certainly for the 2021-2024 term, when they asked for the 650, we felt that was justified because at the end of the day, they're paying somebody to update their legal agreements and whatnot. Like they've got admin costs, and we say, okay, well that's not unreasonable. I think before just signing off on a new agreement that now went from 33 cents a year for the site to $1,600 plus a year is substantial. And I didn't feel comfortable signing that without you being aware of it, because when we get to a future budget, that will mean a percentage increase that we have to go back to the taxpayer for. So none of this is an internal transfer to the ACRD.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councilor Mueller, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just looking at the information here, and I just noticed we're looking at a 5-year term, yet everything prior to this has been a 3-year term. Is it Mosaic that wants a 5-year term? It is, right?
Yeah, that was the agreement that they proposed, yes.
Any more questions? Do you have anything else?
No, nothing about the radio club. Thank you for the discussion. Okay, and we'll move on to emergency support services and ESS. I just wanted to make mention that the Alberni Valley has a wonderful group of volunteers who are dedicated to supporting individuals who've been evacuated from their home due to an emergency. And I'm very pleased to make mention that we were successful in our ESS grant this year. So we're moving forward with some of the initiatives that we had proposed. Through this funding, we're able to build our capacity and improve our regional resilience through the acquisition of supplies, training, and team building initiatives. So some of the supplies I've mentioned here, as we'll be purchasing items that would be used during an activation at a reception center or group lodging site. So some of the items include cots and bedding, food, water, storage units, such as a C-can, charging kits for digital devices, childcare items, recreational materials, pet care items, and hygiene kits and information display boards that could be used at a reception center and group lodging site. So we're very excited to have these things added to our list of resources. We will also be engaging in some training opportunities as we try to enhance our readiness through training sessions and tabletop exercises. We'll be focusing our efforts this year on learning what's called the ERA tool, which is the Evacuation Registration and Assistance tool. And this is really a digital tool to provide services over the phone. And it also enables e-transfers, which is still a relatively new concept within the ESS program. We will also be allocating funding for two members of our team to go to NEST, the NEST conference, which is the Network of Emergency Support Services team. This year we had 2 people go to Prince George, and next year it is in Kamloops. So it's a really great opportunity to network with other ESS teams and learn from each other and build our capacity. This program is entirely dependent on volunteers. And so we do use this grant to leverage support for our volunteer program. And we will purchase equipment and supplies that support the responder as they're out. And we will also purchase items to express our appreciation. We will be purchasing identifiable gear. You can see in the photo there that they have jackets on, and on the back of the jackets it's emergency support services. That's so when they show up on site, people know who they are. One of the things the fire departments identified when we were first starting the program was we were showing up on site, but we just looked like a neighbor or someone because we had nothing on us to label us to say we were a part of this program. So we've worked hard to get lanyards and vests and jackets and things so that we are well identified for the fire department. It's a really great program. I can't speak highly of it enough. It's a great team of people who really are dedicated and care a lot about this community and get deployed at all hours of the day and night. So really grateful to this team and are grateful for this grant so that we can invest in this team's initiatives. And if anyone has any questions about ESS, feel free to ask me. Otherwise, I'll move on to FireSmart. And just to make mention that our FireSmart program has now ended. It ended as of April the 30th. We have applied for a new grant and we're just waiting to find out whether it's been approved or not. But in the interim, I wanted to provide some statistics. And actually, before I do that, I did want to just make mention of our FireSmart coordinator, Randy Thoen, who has been with us for 3 years. Randy is just a wealth of knowledge and fantastic to have on staff. I'm missing him greatly as he's been away since April the 30th. But he has done so much work in our community and improving our wildfire resiliency. And I just wanted to make mention of all the hard work and effort that he's made over the last few years and thank him for his efforts. Some of the statistics that I have for you here today was our home assessment program. It was very successful. I pulled out some of the stats on where our home assessments were completed and happy to report that people from all over our region are interested in having FireSmart home assessments. Also, our rebate program was running, so we had 39 homeowners completing work on their property to ensure that it's more fire smart. So almost $30,000 worth of work on various properties. The curbside program was extremely successful, more than we anticipated. So 162 requests from property owners asking us to come by and pick up woody material to try to remove it from their property and thus make their property more fire smart. So that was a huge success, that program. And then I also wanted to make mention that Randy did some critical infrastructure assessments over the years. So 76 since 2021. And these include sites such as pump stations, reservoirs, water treatment plants, fire halls, the city's public safety building, and the RCMP detachment are just a few of that 76. So recently in this 2025, a number of staff in our region and fire department personnel went to the Wildfire Resiliency and Training Summit, which is essentially the FireSmart conference. Great conference, much like the NEST conference. It's a great opportunity for people to engage with each other and learn from one another. My understanding is they had over 800 people there this year. So it is very well attended and sold out very quickly. We were lucky to get our registrations in before it sold out. And we also recently held a seasonal readiness and FireSmart exercise. So really just getting together locally to understand, are we ready for this wildfire season coming up? And so making sure we're connecting with each other, and then how also we explored ways that we could become more efficient for fire departments communicating with the EOC as well. So that was part of our goals for those exercise and training opportunities. I did want to highlight that one of the things Randy excelled at was public engagement and education, and he was very good at remaining on the social media engagement. He attended many events and presentations. So I think we were at many fairs and open houses and markets in our community over the last 3 years. So grateful to him and his work. And as I mentioned, the next year we have applied for a 2-year grant coming up. Our grant is in, but the approval is pending. So hoping we get it.
Thank you for that. Any questions on the Fire Smart program? How much your grant for 1 or 2 people? Two people. So
Yes, 2 people.
questions I can see. Director C, did you have a question?
Not a question. I just wanted to make a comment that I think Randy was a really good member of the ACRD team. He seemed to work collaboratively with everybody, and it would be really nice to have him back on board.
I completely agree with that comment.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I have to leave, but I see that you're going to be talking about the brochure. I think it's a great job. I just want to bring up the Kurt's Crib once again. I'm very disappointed that the province is still talking about taking it out. I'd like to reach out to the West Coast for their support in having that rehabilitated, I guess, because it is still identified as our emergency access on the backside of Sprout Lake coming from the West Coast. If the highway is closed because of a fire, which it has happened, it just didn't have the wind to take off. If we could be closed down, and that is an emergency access. So, but thank you. Great job on the brochure. Thanks.
Thank you. I know we have a director. Director Beckett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I couldn't hear you initially. Karen, I'm just wondering, what ministry provides the grant for the Fire Smart program? The reason I'm asking that is I would agree with you, and I'm sure everyone's seen around the table, the value and benefit of being proactive with respect to wildland interface safety. So let me start by asking who provides the grant, and what action can we take to improve perhaps the chance or opportunity to receive that funding, because I would hate to not be able to continue to provide this invaluable service.
Thank you for your comments, Director Beckett. It is administered through UBCM, and I believe it is through BC Wildfire Service, so the Ministry of Forest, not remembering the whole term of their ministry's name, but it is a complicated and complex grant. It takes a number of staff a long time to put together the grant application as well as the final report. So any support that we have provided feedback, I will say that we have provided feedback on a regular basis to UBCM to say that this grant is very complex and takes a lot of staff time to complete. But any support you can offer to streamline this grant would be much appreciated.
Do you have a follow-up, Director Beckett, or?
Only, thank you, Mr. Chair. Only, as we may be reaching out to Minister Parmar regarding the mosaic arrangements, so too could we ask Mr. Parmar if he wouldn't assist us and ensure that those grants come forward. I recognize that perhaps that's not politically appropriate, but that's what they're elected for. And I don't know if that would help or not.
Thank you. I see him taking notes right now. I have Director Siga.
I echo that. I think it's really important, and to include Kurt's crib as a mention as well.
Okay, yeah, I think that's done too. Any more questions? Yeah, I guess.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make mention that we have our evacuation route brochure, and I'm pleased to share this brochure with you. We've completed it and printed a small run. We've only had the budget to print 2,500 copies, but we're happy that we could print those and look for grant opportunities in the future where we may be able to print more. But this brochure provides information for the public on what to do before, during, and after an evacuation. It also highlights evacuation routes with a map on the inside as well, and discusses evacuation messages. So going back to the communication and what those messages are and what they actually mean, so that it's really understood well by the public. So we're quite pleased with the final outcome, and I just wanted to share it with you and let you know that it's available. And if you have information display booths coming up, we're happy to share it with you.
Thank you for that. We in the boardroom have them. I don't know if everybody online has them do this. They don't, so they can't see what we can see. Are there any comments about the brochure? Really?
Thank you very much. This is a great brochure. It's got a lot of, especially trusted sources, evacuation messages, grab and go. I most certainly don't want to critique anything. However, on the next time we do this, a QR code would be just advantageous. And I'm not saying now, maybe a couple of years from now when we redo it, but just even for the Voyant alert to have a QR code for that. But other than that, it is wonderful. It's got all the pertinent information, and the maps on the inside are great. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
And thank you. That's a really great suggestion. So far, no one's pointed out any spelling mistakes, so I'm very happy about that.
Thank you for that. Okay, some more questions, okay.
Just-
Next slide.
Just a couple more slides here. So it looks like I think we'll be done before 12. But I did just want to mention some of the hard work that's been going on from our department around emergency management, education, and engagement. We have been working diligently on some of these national campaigns that we have. So we had the Tsunami Preparedness Week, and I wanted to just highlight that we had a staff lunch and learn presentation, and we chatted about official warning signs and natural warning signs and understanding the risk of tsunamis, and who is most vulnerable to the tsunamis and what we might expect, what we should do. And we reviewed some case studies on some larger worldwide tsunamis, one the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami and the 2011 Japan tsunami. So it was a great discussion. We also during that week did hike to high ground. We actually did two. We did one here in the Alberni Valley and one in Bamfield. We here in the Alberni Valley, we did the Sumas Elementary School students. We met with 4 classes there, and it was actually wonderful. So I'd like to thank all the fire departments are from Sprout Lake, Beaver Creek, Cherry Creek, and Port Alberni. They all attended. So classes started down at Sumas School, and we essentially put on the alarm of the tsunami warning system. And then we walked up to high ground, which was the Church of Latter-day Saints, who was also involved, and very grateful that they allowed us to use their church. And we chatted with the students about tsunami preparedness, and they got to climb all over the fire trucks and chat to the fire department as well. So it was a successful event. We also had our emergency preparedness week. And so we've been doing trivia with staff and our elected officials. We had a radio campaign with 93.3 The Peak, and we've been putting out some information tables at Echo Center in the city and the ACRD. So trying to get the news out. Those are national campaigns. So they come in April and May of every year. So we will be looking to do them again next year. In addition to that, we're always looking to do social media engagement. I did a presentation at the Accessibility Committee meeting this week. I chatted to Abby Fields. We were out at Sprout Lake. And one of the things that we've been doing right now is having our ESS team go and meet all the fire departments and making the connection between the fire departments and our ESS team. So we don't meet each other roadside for the first time, and just chatting about both of our programs so we can close the gaps between those two departments. And so that's basically an update on what we've done so far. And as we move ahead to 2025, I'll just provide a bit of information on what will be working on ahead for the rest of the year. So we will be continuing to work with Winna and John in the development of that communications plan. We will be doing further work with the West Coast Emergency Cultural Safety and Awareness Plan and working on our engagement sessions. The ESS and the EOC grant that I mentioned earlier today, we will be completing those initiatives as we move through the year. We work usually in the fall, we focus on our training. So we'll be working on our training sessions and exercises in the fall. Public engagement is a year-round ongoing assignment. So we will be looking at continuing to engage with the public at community events, open houses, markets, fairs, and presentations. Another national campaign coming up in October is Shakeout. So that's earthquake preparedness. So we will be looking to putting our efforts into doing some promotions and public engagement on that initiative. Hopefully we have our Fire Smart program back up and running. And so hopefully as we move ahead, I'll have a success story for that. We are working on the development of an EOC GIS strategy to improve our mapping and essentially enhancing our EOC readiness through the creation of digital EOC files. So we always have to be prepared in emergencies to work off of paper, but then there are digital efficiencies that we also need to use as well. So we're trying to move a little bit ahead with the digital efficiencies while still maintaining our paperwork. We will be updating our training records, our contact lists and inventory to make sure everything's on the ready. And one of the projects I'll be working, and I hope to have something at our next meeting, perhaps in November, is the development of a policy group binder. And the intention of this binder, actually, I think that came from you, Charles, and us having a conversation. So it is in the works. I am working on it. The intention of this binder is to be a quick reference guide for elected officials on roles and responsibilities and emergency management and flow charts of decision making and whatnot. So I was hoping to have it prepared for this meeting, but with Winna and John's work around communication, I thought it was best to wait till they've done their part and then we can complete that. So stay tuned for that project. And that concludes my presentation.
Well, thank you for that short 10-minute presentation. Yeah.
Informative,
Informative.
timely.
So,
There we go.
do we have any questions from anybody here? Nothing. So hopefully you get all the grant funding we want to move forward like that. No questions at all. Yeah, well, thank you for your presentation. We're just halfway through the agenda now. Too quickly here. Yes, a lot of information. So that was our two. Now we're in number 7, correspondence for information, letter from the city of Port Alberni, Starlink satellite system. Anybody want to comment on letter? Have we already addressed it? Okay, great. We don't have to receive it, do we?
Motion to receive.
Motion to receive. Okay, motion to receive. Councilor Mealy, seconded by Dr. Boyko. Okay, all those in favor? That's great. Harry. Request for decisions. There are no requests for decisions, are there? Anybody want a decision? No, nothing, no. Reports, license agreement, Mosaic Forest Management. Anybody want to comment on letter?
I don't have anything.
Okay, great. We don't have to receive it, do we? Motion to receive. Okay, motion to receive. Councilor Mealy, seconded by Dr. Boyko. Okay, all those in favor? Request for decisions. There are no requests for decisions, are there? Anybody want a decision? No, no. Reports, licensing agreement, Mosaic Forest Management. that the emergency program executive committee receive the staff report for information. Motion to receive. Councilor Mealy, seconded by Dr. Boyko. Any comments, any further comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Late business, there is no late business. Any question period? Any questions from boardroom? No, we've left already. Zoom meeting or ACRD responses?
No, there's no questions from the public.
That brings us to item 12. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Mealy, seconded by Director Boyko. All those in, oh, you want to comment? Director Boyko, go.
I just want to confirm something quickly. So the letter from the city, that is basically, we took it for information, but the city is not going to proceed because it's actually going to cost them more money than doing it the way they want to do it right now. I just want to clarify so everyone's on the same page.
So Karen, do you want to or somebody?
Yeah, there's no action to be taken on that, and that is the understanding. If we go through the Alberni Valley Emergency Program, we were asked to explore that at this meeting, and we did explore it, but it will end up costing the city more in the end if we go through the Alberni Valley Emergency Program budget. So it makes more sense, fiscal sense for the city to run it through their own fire department operating budget.
Okay, so the city's plan is to withdraw that letter and just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Perfect. Thank you.
Daniel, you want to sit up?
Yeah, it's received and we like what we'll do, Director Boyko, is just provide that response at a staff level, saying that it was discussed. These are the differences and therefore no actions being taken.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? So we had a motion to adjourn, but we had no second. Second. Director Beck, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you for the meeting. It's almost done before lunch. Thank you.
Y'all have a wonderful rest of your morning. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
You as well.